This is Tumani Kamara, and it's time to open up the briefcase with Casey Holdahl.
Greetings, Blazer fans, and welcome to The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. Episode 189 of The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. I am Casey Holdahl, and your Portland Trail Blazers have gotten back to 500 on the season by sweeping a weekend back-to-back. They blew out the Lakers in Portland on Saturday, and then bested the Kings in Sacramento on Sunday. Also, Deni Avdija finishes 5th in fan voting, but falls just short of getting an all-star starting spot on this edition of The Briefcase, presented by Spirit Mountain Casino. Well, the Trailblazers have played as many close games this season as just about any team in the NBA, so taking an early lead and then holding it in Saturday's game versus the Lakers was a very nice change of pace. Portland used a 15-2 run late in the first quarter to take a lead that they would never relinquish on the way to a 132-116 victory versus the Lakers in front of a sellout crowd of 19,335 at Moda Center. Portland has now won the season series versus the Los Angeles Lakers 2-1 to go with the season series win that they also have versus the Warriors, and that they would then secure the next day versus the Kings as well. After both teams took turns holding small leads throughout the first 6 minutes of the first quarter, Portland went on a 20-6 run to take a 40-29 lead into the second quarter. The Blazers would shoot 22 free throws in the first quarter, the most free throws taken by any team in any quarter this season, and it sure felt like it. That was an incredibly long game. The Blazers never trailed after the first quarter, would hold a double-digit lead for almost the entirety of the second half, and would go up by as many as 24 points in the fourth before coasting to the 16-point victory. What's more, only one player, Caleb Love, played more than 30 minutes Saturday night, which was very helpful going into the next night's game versus the Sacramento Kings, particularly with that game being a 6 o'clock start time and the game versus the Lakers going late. Shaedon Sharpe in that game went 9 of 18 from the field, 4 of 8 from 3, and 3 of 4 from the line for 25 points to go with 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 2 steals in 29 minutes. Jerami Grant went 6 of 12 from the field, 3 of 4 from 3, and 7 of 9 from the line to finish with 22 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists in 21 minutes. Caleb Love scored 22 points as well, while also handing out 7 assists in 31 minutes. Donovan Clingan posted yet another double-double with 18 points, 11 rebounds, while also tallying 4 assists in 27 minutes. Sidy Cissoko rounded out Portland's double-digit scores with 14 points, 5 rebounds, 2 blocks in 28 minutes. So the Blazers dispatched the Lakers in a game that takes well over 2 hours, due to the number of foul calls and seemingly a review every couple minutes in that game. So the Blazers get done a little bit late in that one, then board a flight to Sacramento to face the Kings Sunday, as I mentioned, 6 p.m. start time. So you lose an hour there. You're probably an hour behind because of the duration of the game versus the Lakers, but it did not matter. The Portland Trail Blazers this season, as I mentioned, have had some difficulty holding leads once they've built those leads, but that has not been the case for this Trailblazers team as of late. Portland, as they did the night before versus the Lakers, built a double-digit lead in the first half and held it through the entirety of the second half on the way to defeating the Kings 117-110 Sunday night at Moda Center. Second game of the back-to-back for the Trailblazers. Also snapped a 4-game winning streak for the Sacramento Kings, who are not playing on the second night of a back-to-back. So a rather impressive win for the Trailblazers, a rather impressive back-to-back for the Trailblazers, even though the Kings' record is not great and the Lakers were missing a few players, but the Blazers are always missing a few players, so that is no kind of excuse when you play the Portland Trailblazers, who are now 22-22 overall and have won 10 of their last 13 games. They're now 10-12 on the road and 3-0 versus the Kings this season, as I mentioned, securing the season series victory versus the Kings. Blazers are now 8-4 versus the state of California this year. Blazers got a boost on Sunday night in Sacramento with the return of Deni Avdija, which was especially well-timed considering that Jerami Grant, Jrue Holiday, and Robert Williams III all sat out the second game of the back-to-back. They all played Saturday night versus the Lakers. None of those players played Sunday versus the Kings. Would not matter for the Trailblazers. Deni posted 15 points on 5 of 7 shooting from the field, 1 of 2 shooting from 3, and 4 of 4 shooting from the line in the first quarter. 15 first quarter points for Deni to get the Trailblazers off to a great start. But despite Deni's dynamic first quarter, Blazers actually went into the second quarter tied at 32-32. The game would remain close for the first few minutes of the second quarter until Portland closed out the half on a 20-8 run to take a 64-53 lead into the intermission. The Kings were unable to make any headway in the third, thanks in large part to Shaedon Sharpe, who overcome first quarter foul trouble. He had 3 fouls, I think, in the first 6 minutes of the game to post 14 points in the third quarter. But after chipping away and chipping away and chipping away throughout the second half, the Kings finally got Portland's lead down to 4 with just 18 seconds to play after a 7-0 run. But while clutch free throw shooting has been an issue for the Trailblazers at times this season, it was not an issue Sunday in Sacramento. Deni Avdija, Shaedon Sharpe combined to go 5 of 6 from the free throw line in the final 16 seconds of that game to secure their third straight victory. Deni finished the game with 30 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and a block in 31 minutes. A very nice return to play for Deni Avdija. Shaedon Sharpe's big second half turned what initially looked like an off night into a 27-point, 7-rebound, 1-steal performance in 34 minutes. Donovan Clingan went 6 of 9 from the field and 8 of 8 from the line for 21 points, with 10 of those coming in the fourth quarter, to go with 17 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal in 36 minutes. Toumani Camara in that game did not miss a shot. He went 7 of 7 from the field, 2 of 2 from the line, and 1 of 1 from 3 to finish with 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block in 36 minutes. So with those wins, the Blazers have now won 8 of their last 10 games and 10 of their last 13. They are now 2 games ahead of the Clippers in 10th and 2.5 games behind the Warriors in 8th and 4 games behind the Suns in 7th and 4.5 games behind the Lakers in 6th. 6th is the last spot where you are automatically in the playoffs. 7, 8, 9, 10, those are the play-in teams. So if you get into 6th, that saves you from having to be in the play-in. I think initially this season, if you said the Blazers might get into the play-in, you'd probably be satisfied with that. But at this point in time, at 22-22 and playing some really good basketball, I think you now start to wonder, could the Blazers potentially get out of that play-in and actually into the full-on playoff race? Still a lot of the season to go. We're a little over halfway through the 2025-26 season, but as of right now, the Trailblazers looking very good, putting themselves in a position where you can at least start to consider, hey, maybe they are going to be a playoff team this year. They're playing as well as anyone in the league right now. They're getting healthy at the right time, and they're beating good teams. You know, they're not just feasting on the bottom of the NBA right now. They're playing very good teams, and they're getting wins versus those good teams. Sometimes those teams don't have all their players, but as I just mentioned, the Blazers never have all their players, so it's not like they're getting an advantage there. Either way, the Blazers playing some of the best basketball they've played the last few seasons, putting themselves in a position to potentially be in that playoff race in the unofficial second half of the season after the All-Star break. Well, at the end of the week, the Trailblazers will have wrapped up a stretch in which they played 8 of their 10 games at home. And if you're looking to hit the road, as the Trailblazers are at the end of this week, you can experience unmatched level of coziness and comfort by experiencing the newly remodeled hotel lobby at Spirit Mountain Casino. Their rooms have all the essentials from high-speed Wi-Fi to 24-hour front desk service. Choose the room that best suits you and book your stay now at Spirit Mountain Casino, Highway 18 in Grand Ronde. Elevate your game. Well, Deni Avdija has worked so hard this season in his second season in Portland, and the fans have worked almost as hard in getting Deni to the 2026 NBA All-Star Game. The fifth-year forward out of Israel finished 5th in Western Conference fan voting, which in my time with the team, we've never had a player finish that high up. That makes up 50% of the total vote for the All-Star starters. So Deni with 2.2 plus million votes, but came up just short in the player and media votes to finish 7th in Western Conference All-Star starters voting. Avdija added 978,496 votes since the second round of returns were announced, which is more votes than players like Kawhi Leonard, Devin Booker, and James Harden received in total. Avdija's late surge outpaced the 2 players directly ahead of him, Spurs center Victor Wembanyama and Timberwolves forward Anthony Edwards, in the final week of voting. Avdija, who is averaging 26.2 points, 7.1 rebounds, and 6.9 assists in 35.3 minutes this season, also finished with more fan votes than the likes of LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and James Harden. However, those fan votes were not enough to overcome where Deni finished in the player and media voting. Deni finished with 2,222,605 votes, which was 5th in the West, as I mentioned, and only about 144,000 votes behind Oklahoma City Thunder's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who finished 4th in fan voting, but he was 9th in media voting and 10th in player voting for a weighted score of 7.5. That put him behind Wembanyama and Anthony Edwards, who actually finished tied for 5th in voting. Because fan vote is the tiebreaker, Wembanyama had more fan votes than Edwards, so Wembanyama gets the 5th and final starting spot in the West. But even though Deni fell short, still a very good chance that he ends up at the 2026 NBA All-Star Game. The voting is just for starters. The reserves are picked by the head coaches, and I think that Deni Avdija obviously has a very good chance to end up getting his first All-Star appearance through the coaches' vote. Blazers are playing pretty good basketball right now at 500. Deni has been one of the best players in the Western Conference by any measure. So the fact that the Blazers are playing well, are in the playoff race, and the fact that Deni is also the main reason why the Blazers are playing well and they've been able to sustain themselves this season despite the number of injuries they've had. I think coaches look at that, and I think Deni's going to get a lot of credit for that, as he should. So while you can't take it for granted and you can't say for sure it's going to happen, because we've seen throughout the years that sometimes players in Portland do get snubbed when it comes to the All-Star game, I am fully expecting that Deni will be named an All-Star reserve when those are announced on February 1st. Once again, that is chosen by the coaches' vote. I don't exactly know how the 2026 NBA All-Star Game is going to work with the three teams. You've got two teams of American-born players, one team of foreign-born players. That's three teams, so shouldn't that be 15 starters, not 10 starters? So like even voting for the starters doesn't really make sense because there's three teams. They changed the format of the game, but they didn't change the format of voting. Is the head coach for the third team, how did they get picked? Because usually the head coaches are just whichever teams have the best record in each conference. So I don't know how that's going to play out. I don't know what happens if all of the reserves are international players. Then there wouldn't be enough players to fill out the two American teams. What happens if all the reserves are Americans? Then there wouldn't be enough players to fill out the international teams. So there's all kinds of questions about how the 2026 NBA All-Star Game is going to run. And I don't know that anyone, even the NBA, necessarily has answers for that at this point. I think they're just kind of going to make it up as they go along. They're going to do whatever they think. I think their plan is to probably do whatever they think is going to get the most fan interest. And obviously the All-Star Game at this point, there's been that narrative about, it's not a very good game anymore. And so they've been making all these changes every single year to tinker with it, to try to get people more engaged in the All-Star weekend. I don't know if it's going to work. Hopefully it does. But either way, I don't know that anyone knows for sure exactly how these things are going to shake out once the NBA All-Star Game happens on February 15th. But either way, you did a fantastic job voting for Deni Avdija, finishing 5th in All-Star voting. If it was the old system and it was just by fan vote, which is what it used to be a decade ago, Deni Avdija would be an All-Star starter. Also, they didn't do positions this year. It used to be you had to select players based off of positions. So I don't know exactly how that might have affected the vote, but either way, you assume that if this was a decade ago, Deni Avdija is already in the All-Star game. But since they've changed the rules, which I think it's been a good change, though I don't really know how serious players take their voting. I think if you look at some of the player votes, there's probably good reason to believe that a lot of guys aren't really taking it all that seriously. And if they're not going to take it seriously, I don't really know what the point of doing it is, but that's someone else's problem, not mine. Either way, it seems very likely that Deni Avdija will be named to his first NBA All-Star game. He absolutely deserves it. We'll find out February 1st. And that's going to do it for this edition of The Briefcase. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. I am Casey Holdahl. Go Blazers.